Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Ushmor tzetzenu uvoenu lechaim u'shalom me'ata ve'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Ushmor tzetzenu uvoenu lechaim u'shalom me'ata ve'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim. I'd like to welcome all members of my family and special people. I live in Seattle, Washington, and the Baumann family lived here in Amsterdam. So even though we did not meet them or know them, they are very special to us. I'd like to thank the members of my family. That's like everybody here, my daughters, my daughter-in-law, my granddaughter, my niece, her husband, my cousin, and my husband, my sister. And also Rabbi Tenbrink, who has come here to give us some, to speak also at the end. And to the municipal workers, thank you so much for doing this wonderful work. It's hard for us to be in a place where this family lived and worked and felt so welcome by their neighbors and friends. But unfortunately, they were caught when the Nazi Germany invaded Amsterdam, and that they were murdered by the Nazis. And that's what we're talking about. So the Stolpersteins, this is a remembrance to them. And you can see the municipal workers put them right there, right here in front of the house. This is the house where they lived. The reason there's two groups is that the first three are for David, my grandfather's cousin, his wife Marta, and their young son Lothar. And then this is Marta's parents. She actually lived on Lekstraat, which they will move when they can put it back in. But today we are holding our heads high in honor of these family members. This will be their, in effect, their final resting place. And we realize that even though we learn from the past, we must, we must pay respects to our family members who did not survive. David Bauman was my grandfather, Erwin Bauman's first cousin. I've been putting this together for 9 years. When I first found out about it, I told my cousin, Marianne, we're coming to Amsterdam. I don't think she believed me, but we did. I would also like to mention here, as they encourage you to find other family members, and I found Inga Marcus in Sydney, Australia, who was Marta's first cousin, and also another cousin, Peter Wyant from uh, Regina, Saskatchewan, and he wanted to come. He's helping pay for it, and so he sent me a picture. I wanted to mention the honorees. The first, of course, is David Bauman, who was my grandfather's first cousin, but unfortunately, he's the one I don't have a picture of. But he was, his dates are 1892 to 1940. He was born to Leopold Baumann and Caroline Dunsberger in Schmidheim, Germany. Here's David, who I first spoke of. Marta Weisse-Baumann was, her dates are 1901 to 1944. She was the wife of David, mother of Lothar. She immigrated to Amsterdam with the rest of her family. And I have some family pictures showing both her and Lothar and the grandparents in one of them. I think David must be taking the picture. The third person I wanted to talk to, sort of the one that's close to my heart, is Lothar Baumann, who was born in 1926, died in 1942. He was a teenage son. And when he came to Amsterdam, November 35, he had attended the school of German Jewish children who the main goal was to teach them Dutch. Now, I ran into an author actually in Seattle who had a picture, who had an article in the newspaper about, she was also a German Jew, went to Amsterdam. It turns out, and she wrote wrote a book about how she was saved by certain Nazi people who did not count her as Jewish. And then, of course, when I wrote to her, I knew there was hundreds of thousands, many thousands of German Jews who were immigrants. And I asked her if she knew Lothar Baumann. She did. She did know her. So we went to her apartment. She gave me this picture. And this was a family that was very close to the Frank family. Otto Frank was her best man at her wedding. Here's Lorraine right here. And here is Lothar right here. But to me, Lothar was just a child. He's the one that kind of touches me the most. He was only 16 years old. One can only imagine the anguish of the parents not knowing where he went and him never coming back. In reality, he was like worked to death in Auschwitz. About 2 or 3 months after Auschwitz. Now, also a footnote, as I like to say, I learn about this when I'm not looking for it. And I was taking class, Anne Frank's diary. There was a footnote in there, and it said that the very first group that was sent off was done by letter, and there was a number of teenagers that were associated with that. And it said that the Frank family got one for Margot, who was Anne's older sister, on the 4th of July, 1942. And that's what that frightened them, and that's caused them to move into the secret annex before they were really ready, before it was really done. But I looked at that date and my heart just sunk. I went home and looked at the dates I had. Sure enough, Lothar at Westerbork, which is the transit camp, where you were there for a while, on the 10th of July, 1942. What do you think? He got the same letter as Mary Frank. Now, the other people that are over here is Marta's parents, grandparents, Adolf. Yeah, that's Adolf. And they actually didn't live here. They lived in Lekstraat, some streets away. And when Lekstraat is ready, then they will move these. So now I would like Teresa, we're gonna read off their names and their dates.
And let us speak of the date of what happened to the members of this family under the Nazis' program of repression and death. For the residents of Sloestraat 6 to Amsterdam, Lothar Baumann, 24th of April, 1926, was born in Frankfurt am Main. The 10th of July, 1942, he arrived at Westerbork Transit Camp. And on August 26, 1942, he died in Auschwitz. David Bauman, 28th of July, 1892, was born in Schmidheim, Baden. The 10th of July, 1943, he arrived in Westerbork Transit Camp. 13th of July, 1943, he departed Westerbork Transit Camp. And on the 16th of July, 1943, he died in Sobibor. Martha Baumann Weiss, born on 16th of July, 1901 in Frankfurt am Main. 17th of November, 1943, she arrived in Westerbork Transit Camp. On the 25th of January, 1944, she departed Westerbork Transit Camp. And on the 28th of January, 1944, she died in Auschwitz. For the residents of Lekstraat 172, Amsterdam, Adolf Weiss was born in Langenlonsheim, Germany, on the 23rd of December, 1871. The 21st of June, 1943, he arrived in Westerbork. The 6th of July, 1943, he departed Westerbork. And the 9th of July, 1943, he died in Sobibor. Isabella Weiss Blumenthal, the 20th of June, 1943, she arrived in Westerbork. The 6th of July, 1943, she departed Westerbork. And the 9th of July, 1943, she died in Sobibor.
Thank you, Teresa. Right. The next section is called The Road to Amsterdam. My great-grandfather, Morris Baumann, was one of 7 children, and they were born, as I said, in Baden, in Schmieheim. This is a picture from about 1930 of his family. The one, Mary Ellen Morris Baumann, and then their 3 adult children. My grandfather, Erwin Baumann, is on the very right. And also, if you see down at the below, there are some grandchildren. The one kind of peeking out in the middle is my mother, Pam's mother. She was born in 1924. And then the older girl is Ruth Baumann, Marianne's mother. And she's helping take care of her, Marilyn Rosenberg. And so it was family.
Flash's mother.
That's Flash's mother. As far as I know, they're not really concerned about what's going on in Germany. This is a little early anyway, before Hitler's come to power. But they had a pretty darn good life going in New Haven, and that's where they identified. Not from the German. They didn't have much contact with their German cousins, but there was some. The next picture, which Marianne's going to show up, is I think it was taken before that because they looked younger. This picture they had traveled back to Germany to visit relatives, and that picture has a photographer's mark for a Lahr, L-A-H-R, which was a small town near Schmieheim. So we know he went back at least once. And he probably did know of his nieces and nephews. He was the youngest of 7, so a lot of them were older than he was. So I struggled over this for a long time, almost wanting to ask my deceased mother, why didn't you know? Why didn't you know? How come you didn't tell me? So here's another picture of my mother. 1914, she's wearing a very fancy dress. She's 16, and it's a public confirmation dress. And confirmation was held during Shavuot, which was in May or June in springtime of 1940. So there she is, probably in May and June of 1940. And at that very same time, Nazi Germany declared war and occupied the Netherlands. But she didn't know anything about that. And she certainly, 16-year-old Claire certainly did not have any idea of what danger her 14-year-old second cousin Lothar Baumann was in. A third cousin, who we know, Sue Geiger, had written me, it's kind of my genealogy buddy, and said, hey, I found some ancestry family trees of the Baumann family. And it matches the name and the date and the birthplace. I think this is the family. Now, ancestry tree, family trees are not that great. There's a lot of bad work. There's a lot of mistakes, but it's something. So I started working on it. And so I got to part of the Kehila Links, which is part of Jewish Gen, which is a big online Jewish genealogy site. And the Kehila Links, they're separated in the geographical. So if you had a Jewish community that you wanted to know about, some people worked on these, and there was one for Schmieheim. So I started writing to Peter Dreyfus and talking to him. He asked me to write a little note about Morris Baumann. I did that. It's still there. And so then he told me about, and I know I'm saying it wrong. If you know what it's Orsipenbulgers, I don't know if that's how you say it. Okay, show the other thing. Okay, go slow on that one because it's an interesting one. And what this was like a family tree, a genealogy. He thought it was by the Nazis. I haven't seen that anywhere else, where you'd walk into a town and know who the Jews were. And it was written in a code, a kind of a German code, and it sounds hard, but it isn't really. You can see that that's from Morris's family, or Leopold's family. Each marriage had an entry, and it says 7 kinder on there, 7 children. And then it writes about 7 children, a little bit what happened to them, where they went. So there was this one I just could not figure out. It said, as I translated it, registration by District Court, Frankfurt on Main, since 8/8/1945. I said, what does that mean? He says, that means they were killed in the Holocaust. What? What? So
My mother had always told us we did not lose.
And my mother, and your grandparents.
they always were me.
They all agreed that no one in their family was lost.
Yeah, right. And it's too bad she passed away in 2020. I think she would have been really interested. So I immediately got to, and looked immediately at Yad Vashem, which is the big site in Israel of Holocaust information. Dang, if he did not show right back up. And David Bauman, I didn't know anything else about his family. David Bauman, but there was 2 records. One was from Germany and one was from. So then I ran to that great website, Jude's Monument. It's in Netherlands website. This is a beautiful, informative site. It's wonderful, and that's where I learned about Lothar, and I learned about Marta, and I learned about her parents, and I learned that he lived here. And I learned about Stolpersteins, and that's when I said to Marianne, we're going to do this. And now I'd like to turn it over to Rabbi Tenbury, who will be doing something.
You said it all. Having said it, I'm very happy in a way that those Stolpersteine are here now with your help, and that as a remembrance that the people lived here for the last stage in their life in Amsterdam, and before that to Westerbork, Auschwitz, Sobibor. Just over a month ago, I've been in Auschwitz and Sobibor with the yearly Auschwitz visit, as we call it. Went to Poland with the Dutch Auschwitz Committee and visited the camps there. The main thing in the camps there is that it's empty. There are no matzebot. There are no graveyards. Well, it's a large graveyard, but there are no monuments there. The monuments we should have erected for people that died at cemeteries. They didn't get a graveyard. They didn't get a monument. Didn't get a matzeva. And now, in a way, they received their matzeva in honor of them. Their names are kept for people that walk in the street, people that live here. People can see that they actually existed, that they lived, and that they were not a number, or not even a number, that were put away in the gas chambers and being cremated. What the Nazis wanted. The way of dedicating a monument on Matseva is to read the text on the Matseva. And then before that, you unveil the Matseva. So I will read the names of the people that lived here, people that lived in Lekstraat. And I will say the score, the commemoration words and prayer, and say the Kaddish. And I think you'll have the text all, so you can join me in saying the Kaddish. So I will turn a little bit round to read the names. From right, Lothar Baumann. Hier woonde Lothar Baumann, geboren 1926. Geïnterneerd 10 juli 1942. Gedeporteerd 15 juli 1942. Uit Westervoort. Vermoord 30 september 1942, Auschwitz. Hier woonde Adolf Weiss, geboren 1871. Geïnterneerd op 21 augustus 1943. Gedeporteerd 8 juli 1943 uit Westervoort. Vermoord op 9 juli 1943, Sobibor. Word vermoord means murdered. They didn't die, they were murdered in those events. And that's why it is good to have this word put on the Stolpersteine. That people really know, not only our generations, but also the coming generations, what really happened in those awful places. I will say the score and mentioning their names, and then we will together say the Kaddish. Text. El male rachamim shochen b'meromim המצא מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה במעלות קדושים קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים לנשמת דוד באומן, מרתה וייס באומן, Lothar Baumann, Adolf Weiss, Isabella Blumenthal Weiss, Shalachul leolamam, Began Eden tehemenu chatam, Ana ba'ala rachamim, Astireu etzeter knafecha leolamim, Utzoror bitzoror achayim et nishmatam, Adonai unachalatam, וינוח בשלום על משכבם ונאמר אמן. Text of the Kaddish. ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, וחייכון וביומכון ובחיי לכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב וימרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, ושבחתה ונחמתה, לאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומו, ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל בני אדם ואמרו אמן. And the words of the Kaddish are they don't consist any words of death. But when you say Kaddish together, and you've mentioned the names of the people who passed away, because you say the Kaddish, you actually make them stay alive in your minds, in your memory. And by every time calling the names again and again, they didn't die in our memory. And that's our task, your task as family, as survivors, to keep mentioning their names as you came back to this place, to make sure that they are not really gone. Thank you. Wish you long life.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'hamidenu shomreinu lechaim Ushmor tzetzenu uvoenu lechaim ushalom me'ata ve'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'hamidenu